That's ISO.
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out.
Podcast where we talk to business owners and entrepreneurs and we talk about their success and have them deconstruct their path to success. Today we have a very special guest who needs no introduction. Hey, we're just asking you to introduce yourself to the folks out there.
Fantastic. So I appreciate you having me, TJ Tijani, also known as a rentrepreneur. I'm happy to be here, happy to bring y'all words to my real estate, bring y'all into my world of real estate, I should say, which is in the short-term rental game. And we have taken our pivot into more so the hotel space has been getting bigger, I should say. And so we're excited about that and what's coming up for that. But nonetheless, I'm originally from Nigeria, born there. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I moved to Houston when I was 8 years old, and I've been in Houston ever since. I went to University of Houston, and Houston is home for me. And so, yeah.
TJ, tell us, how did you get started into short-term rental and also in the hotel space?
Yeah, the short-term rental space was interesting because I was doing pretty much every other real estate strategy under the sun prior to. So I was a wholesaler. My dad fix and flip projects that I've done and completed. I was wholesaling. I was doing fix and flip. I was a long-term buy and hold investor. See, I graduated from the University of Houston. I put myself through school. It took me 6 years to graduate with my engineering degree. As I was working in the oil and gas industry, working offshore, a good friend of mine said, man, you're a hustler. You need to read this book. You can probably guess what book that is. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I read the book, and that was what turned my mind on. That was a light bulb moment for me, that I knew I needed to own some assets. I got into real estate. My goal at the time when I decided to get into real estate, when I decided to hold on and I wanted to get some rental properties, I had a goal of getting to 10 rentals, and I was going to get 10 rental properties, and I was going to walk away from my engineering job and do real estate full time. For folks who know anything about oil and gas, it's a very up and down market. So when the price of oil dropped to about $42 a barrel, when you consider the fact that it costs $46 a barrel to build and produce crude oils and these major operators like BP, Shell, they stopped drilling. And because my company where I work, we were at the face of the economy. We were service providers to those companies. And so we didn't have any more projects. And so I woke up, went to work, didn't expect on June 1st, 2017, that I was going to get to the office and they were going to give me that tap on the shoulder and say, man, we got way too many engineers for the amount of projects that we have. I had just wrapped up a big project. So they said, man, I got to let you go. And that was the day I was let go. I had 5 rental properties at the time. So I was only halfway into my goal of 10. What's interesting is they actually reached back out to me a year later after they laid me off to come back. But nonetheless, I had already got some things going at the time, but I was laid off that day. And so the choice was to either find another job and continue the path to 10 or just go all into real estate right then and there and just start going. And I chose the latter. But let me not glamorize it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Matter of fact, my first 2 deals off the back were losses, but I stayed in the game. And I'm glad I did because I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But nonetheless, I started doing short-term rentals. December 2017 is when I launched my first one. And now we are at a point to where I believe it's almost kind of natural progression in this business, whether you are arbitraging, whether you own your assets or whether you manage other people's short-term rentals. The natural progression, if you are scaling this business the right way, you will likely want to start getting multiple doors in one location, which is what we started doing. And I realized what it does for operations, what it does for the business, what it does for my team, and how much actually easier this business gets. And so I started buying boutique hotels. And my first one was an apartment conversion into a boutique hotel. And so now we are looking at nothing but boutique hotels and also branded hotels that we are looking to get some under contract here in a little bit, actually. But nonetheless, I'm excited for what's to come. We got some other projects in the works, I'm in a bunch of different spaces now, just from business wise. But the short-term rental space has been one that changed my life. And with the kind of business that we're doing now, we're still scaling that business. And on top of that, I do mentor, I coach. I have a community of people that I just love dearly, and we're getting to it. And I'm showing them how to buy their short-term rentals creatively, which is another thing that I specialize in that I love to do is creative financing. We love buying our real estate creatively. And so we'll buy our short-term rentals creatively. And so, I know that was a little winded, but.
Oh, no, you're fine. One of the things that I specialize in is getting folks, business owners and entrepreneurs, the capital that they need in order to grow their business. How were you able to sustain in 2017? Because you said your first two projects out the gate were duds. So talk to us. How were you able? Because most people would have packed it up after
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It was great. I was able to save up money during when I was an engineer. I was fortunate enough to say, man, I was making six figures out of college, but it came at a cost. That cost was my time. I was working offshore. I had to work out in the rigs. I was gone out in these rigs by 60, sometimes 70% of the year. So I was making six figures, but it came at a cost of my time. One thing I love about the short-term rental industry is that it addressed what was really important to me after I got laid off, which for one, I wanted to at least maintain my lifestyle. So I wanted to start generating enough income so I could at least maintain my six-figure lifestyle. And number two, I wanted to reclaim my time. I didn't want to keep traveling to make that much money anymore. I wanted to get my time back. I wanted to build a business that I could fire myself in, which is also very important to me. And I was able to do that in the short-term rental business. Matter of fact, I was able to achieve both of these goals in terms of getting that income and freeing up myself, scaling this business without having to scale my time within 6 months of getting into the short-term rental space. So you speak to your question even more because I realized that I had money saved up, but I lost probably, man, I lost it all and then some. But
Give us a number, TJ, because people they like to hear. Hey, let's be real. People, because I'll use Jay-Z as an example. People make fun of him to this day in regards to lost 90 bricks and got it back.
yeah,
But you know what? The fact that he was able to put a number out there for people to poke at.
yeah.
Sometimes we just have to be transparent.
I think if when I do the math in my head, I probably lost north of 180,000. But I think if I put it on paper, if I actually broke it down, it's probably over 230, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, lost. And then that was like within the first year of being a full-time entrepreneur. And for somebody who's just growing their business, who five rentals and I was looking to grow my business, that's nothing small. That's not small at all. So yeah, that was tough. And I think just with that time and how tumultuous that time was, I think it probably would have taken out probably 95% of people. But the thing is that you have to stay in the game because truly, like, you lose when you quit. Matter of fact, one of the deals that I did very bad in, I bought this property for $495. We put 92,000 into the remodel. We're supposed to sell it for over 700. We ended up selling this property. It took about a year and a half to sell. We were paying a very high 12% interest note on it. We were also, man, it was when we sold it, I ended up having to come out of pocket an additional 10 grand just to sell it. So we sold it for about $5. And so that was a big hit there. And the thing is that when you got to understand that even that deal right there, that particular property, if I had held on to it, if I had just found a way to just hold on to that property, I would have eventually been okay. I would have sold it because this happened 2018. Imagine if I had held on to the 2020, 2021. I would have sold it for over 850,000 if I had just held on to it. But see, the thing is that, and that was one of the biggest lessons I learned is, for one, stay in the game, right? Stay in the game. And a lot of these real estate deals, one of the things I learned about doing real estate, especially doing creative financing and just buying, especially leveraging private capital, doing all the deals that we've done, I've learned very much so to protect the cash flow. If you can protect the cash flow, then you'll be okay. That's one thing. That's what I love about creative financing. When we structure creative financing deals with our sellers and sellers that we buy deals from, if it's a give and take, I give them what they want, but I also get what I want. I'll give you your price on my terms, right? So one thing I learned about doing real estate all these years is that if you can protect the cash flow, that's your safety net. If you can protect the cash flow, even if you overpay for a property, you will eventually be back in the green. You could be in the red, but you will eventually, if you hold on to it long enough and it actually makes money, you will eventually be back in the green from the debt pay down and appreciation. But once you let it go, and then it's gone. And so same principle applies. If I had held on to that property, I would have made it out okay if I had just found a way to hold on to it. But at the time, it was very hard to hold on to it. I didn't see a way to refinance it. I didn't see a way to make it happen. So I'm not mad at myself for not holding on to it. But at the same time, I didn't even realize that until later. But the thing is, because we didn't know what was coming up. We didn't know what 2021, we didn't know what was coming up. But nonetheless, staying in the game is probably one of the biggest lessons I learned in that. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy time whatsoever.
Let me talk about this. I'm a big believer and you said you have a mentorship. Matter of fact, you do have a mentorship. I'm
Right.
a big believer in getting with the right mentor and looking at your numbers, having someone to bounce ideas off of, letting you know, because your family and friends have no idea what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, or whatnot. If you tell them it's a good deal, it could be the worst deal in the world. Mama's gonna say, "Baby, you know what? If you say it's a good deal, it's a good deal." Let's look at that deal. What was your thought process going into it, and what was the reasons why you believe that the deal eventually didn't work out?
So this particular property was in a very affluent part of Houston. It was zoned to probably the neighborhood zoned to two of the best high schools in the city, Bel Air and Lamar. And in this neighborhood, there were houses. The two-story houses were going for about 1.4, 1.5, some up to $2 million. And so we had one of the very few one-story houses in this neighborhood, and we're looking to let it go for about 700,000. So we saw an opportunity for people to get in for a family, a nice family, to get into one of the top neighborhoods in the city and not have to spend $2 million to get in. They could spend 700,000 and still be zoned to some of the best schools. This would be in one of the top neighborhoods in the city, and that was part of our thought process. On top of that, the numbers penciled. 495 purchase price, 90K rehab, 700K ARV was literally what. Matter of fact, the appraiser came in at 712, and so that's what I penciled at. And even with our holding costs and everything, we anticipated, even with the time that we anticipated, at worst case, we anticipated 6 months, but it took over a year to get it sold. So we anticipated 6 months to get everything done, maybe 2 months on the rehab, 2 to 3 months max on the rehab, give it 3 months to sell. We thought it was actually going to go within 1 month. And it was a beautiful rehab. But what we learned about that deal was that, for one of the things that we learned is that at that price point, when you start doing high-end deals at that price point, they're a lot more picky. They're different. We had buyers come in, open house, a lot of people in there. Buyers come in, oh my God, I love it. It's so beautiful here. Oh yeah, I don't like that tree. I'm out of here. So like it was that. So it was just the picky buyers, as well as the fact that if for folks who don't know, like probably already heard about Hurricane Harvey that happened in Houston back in 2017. This deal I bought December 2017. So this was post Harvey. This property flooded for the very first time during Harvey. Amazing elevation, but it flooded for the first time. But again, had all the other things going for it. Amazing neighborhood, zoned to the best schools, all that jazz. All the two-story houses didn't flood, but all the one-story houses did. And there were very few one-story houses. But we bought one of the few that did flood. But nonetheless, that was also working against us. But because it was a 500-year flood, and because the house actually has really high elevations, it was just a crazy flood. We was like, okay, now it shouldn't be a hindrance. I can tell you it definitely was a hindrance, especially at that price point. It was a hindrance on top of how picky. For example, we had some of the classic windows, like it was really dope. One of those windows you had to kind of spool open. The place was super modern, but one of those classic windows that you kind of spool open and push out. So we thought that it would add some really, really dope character. And guess what? Some buyers loved it, but some buyers came in and now we don't like the windows. So we actually came in while it was already done. We listed it. We went back and took apart all those windows and put brand new double pane windows in it in order to sell it. And we still sold it at a loss. So yeah, man, it was a lot going on with it. That was a very frustrating deal. Actually, one of all the flips that I've done, that was the worst, hardest, most frustrating flip I've ever done at that time.
To me, that makes you a better coach and mentor. Let's speak about your mentorship and some of the pitfalls that you help your students avoid because of your experiences. Let's speak about your mentorship and some of the pitfalls that you help your students avoid because of your experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Our mentorship focuses on, I guess, two very distinct things, but we focus on acquisitions by way of whether you buy your short-term rentals creatively or you rent your short-term rentals via rental arbitrage. And we also do co-hosting. Co-hosting to me, though, is when you manage somebody else's. But if you can understand how to run your own, understand how to run somebody else's, you'll be able to manage somebody else's. So you can literally co-host, arbitrage, or own. But if you have the right infrastructure, it doesn't matter. You use the same infrastructure to run all three different strategies. But so we focus on the acquisition piece. So that's through creative financing, through arbitrage mainly. And then the operations, because your longevity in this business is heavily going to be determined by your identity as an operator. So that's why we focus so much on operations. Operations is big for us. Matter of fact, if you're trying to even get into the points where you're getting into boutique hotels, you're getting into multiple doors, one location, you have to have operations down. because it's gonna speak into how profitable you are. It's gonna speak to what kind of reviews that you have. For one, those are the two things that the mastermind focuses on. We meet as a group every single week. We meet every week. There's an accountability piece because guess what? What I've learned is that most people have done the work on themselves. Most people know their why. Most people are have the will, the want to make a change, to do more for themselves, for their families. But most people need direction and accountability. That's what we realize that most people need. That's exactly what this mastermind provides. One of the things I love to do in this mastermind is the level of support that everybody gets in the mastermind. I allocate 2 days out the week to spend one-on-one time with everybody in the mastermind to help them put together deals, help to negotiate with sellers on their behalf. Because this creative financing deals requires thinking. Once you actually get it down, man, sky is the limit, and you won't ever want to buy real estate another way again, honestly. but yeah, it's pretty involved, and this isn't a mastermind where, hey, watch a course and go join a Facebook group. Like, no, it's a hand-holding experience. I have other coaches in the mastermind that support that people can lean on, that are titans in the game as well. But it's really about making sure your short-term rental business is running like a well-oiled machine. My saying is that if you treat this business like a hobby, it's going to cost you like a hobby. But if you treat it like a business, it'll pay you like a business. So we're building businesses at the Redspreneur Mastermind for sure.
That's great. You know what? Let's piggyback about that. In regards to your leadership style, how would you say, what is your leadership style?
For me, I love I guess I would say my style is, because what we do from the mastermind, you're going to get like front loaded with a lot of knowledge. But I do know that knowledge is one thing, but it's the application of the knowledge that's really what's going to move the needle. My leadership style is to show the students and the people involved not to negotiate with themselves. And that's one of the things that I push, to not negotiate with yourself. Because guess what? Most people that have full-time jobs, most people actually do have a full-time job. And at that full-time job, they're going to get asked to do certain tasks by their manager, or their supervisor, or their boss. And guess what? When the boss asks you, hey, you got to be at this meeting, guess what you're going to do? You're going to be at that meeting. Hey, you got to go make this delivery. Whatever the case is, guess what you're going to do? You're going to make that delivery, or whatever the case is. Why? Because it's your job. And guess what? Because it's your job, your boss is not going to negotiate with you. Why would he negotiate with you when that is your job? But when we decide that we want to build something for ourselves, we start negotiating with ourselves. If I say, okay, I'm going to talk to 10 sellers today. Okay, I talked to 5 because I had to take a call with this person. I had to go treat it like a business. We negotiate with it and then we let life get in the way, because guess what? Life is going to life. But when your boss asks you to do something, even though life, you're still going to get it done. But we don't give our businesses that same level of respect. And at the end of the day, we start negotiating with our business and we start negotiating with ourselves. And my thing is that I'm going to need you not to. I'm going to need you not to negotiate with yourself, because guess what? That's what's going to move the needle. I'll add on to that and say that I am big on focusing on one or two things. So focusing on very few things, because what you focus on is what expands. What you give time to is what expands. So focus on a few things, because guess what? You hear that saying. You probably heard that saying, jack of all trades, master of nothing. Most people don't know that there's a second part to that saying, because the whole thing actually says jack of all trades, master of none, but it's still better than a master of one. The goal is to master more than one thing. You want to master more than one thing, but you can't master more than one thing until you master one thing. That's the thing. So you have to hone in on, because guess what? When I was getting into the business, when I was getting into real estate and I was an engineer, I was doing real estate on the side. Me and my boys opened up a donut shop. I was trying to do multi-level marketing at the same time. I was wholesaling, trying to buy landlord properties. And I was busy as heck, but I wasn't productive. And there's two totally different things. So one of the things that we talk about heavy is, I want you to get laser focused on the important things, the money making activities. I don't want you to spread too thin. You will have time. Once you start getting traction, you start building, once you start firing yourself and you're taking this hat off and handing this hat, you're outsourcing, you're delegating. Now you're going to free up your time to start mastering other things. But let's focus on mastering one thing first. And that's another part of my style that I will add on that as well.
You know what? I want to speak on, in regards to something that you said, which is very important, is the implementation in regards to the knowledge that you give folks. I have a mentorship as well, and I find that a lot of folks, they don't, for the most part, they don't lack knowledge, especially with this day and age, with YouTube and all the resources out there. Information is just a fingertip away. How are you able to help people hone in and implement the knowledge that you give them so they can be successful?
By holding them accountable. We have accountability calls. And guess what? I guess you could lie to the group, right? You could lie. We hold each other accountable, but at the same time, who you really fooling, who you really cheating. But but the accountability component, because a lot of people need that. Matter of fact, most people need that. That's what's going to really help them as well.
Got it. Got it. So, talk to us about some milestones and achievements that you've been able to hit so far.
I got into the short-term rental business 2017, but I've been in real estate since 2014. Started buying long-term rentals, was wholesaling as well at the time. But let's see, right now we're at 35 doors. We're actually over 50, but we downsized a little bit because we came back to Springport. And so we are now looking to put some pretty currently right now outside of the 32, I have two boutique hotels. And then on top of that, we are now looking to put some branded hotels under contract, my business partner and I. And my business partner alone, by himself, he owns 13 branded hotels. And another thing that I'm super excited about that we are both starting right now is the Hotel Mastermind. So we're starting a mastermind for hoteliers, for people who are inspiring hotels, who are looking to own their own hotel and want to know how to analyze these hotels, want to know how to source them. It's a hand-holding mastermind. And so we're really excited about that. We're actually kicking that off here in a little bit. We're actually kicking that off in a few weeks. So we are just starting with 10 in this first cohort. And this is going to be a really personable hand-holding experience. And it's called the Hotel Mastermind. There's not going to be anything else like it. I promise you that. So yes, so we're excited about that as well. And we got other stuff going. I just launched a bookkeeping firm. My business partner and I launched a bookkeeping firm that is called Capital Financial. You're going to hear a lot about that. We focus on bookkeeping for hoteliers and short-term rental folks. Short-term rental investors and hoteliers is who we focus on for this bookkeeping. So trust me when I tell you, between myself and my business partner, we understand the importance of operations. We have some amazing people on our team. We actually have a CPA on our team as well that owns it with us. And we're just excited. We are ranking up in clients already. And we're looking to scale and grow this thing. And you're going to start hearing a lot more about CAFA for sure.
You talked about your business partner. I think oftentimes when I meet aspiring business owners and entrepreneurs, some folks want to take all the credit, is what I say. They want to do it on their own. And I have a saying where it says, an army of a one is an army of none. Talk to me about the importance of partnership and having someone there that is strong in the areas that you're weak, and talk to me about that dynamic.
Yeah, I truly feel like partnerships will help you go bigger, better, faster. I truly feel like it's funny when I had a meeting with one of my mentors. This was in 2021, and we were at an Italian restaurant we were eating, and I was telling him all this cool stuff that I was doing. I had this project going on, I got this going on, and he told me, he said, "Oh, TJ, that's cool, but no." He said, "Oh, you're doing all these deals on your own." As a matter of fact, after today, I want you. I'm not saying just go find a business partner, but you need to even have strategic partnership. He said, "I don't want you should be doing these deals on your own. Go bigger and bring people in." He said, "Go bigger and bring in people. What that'll do is you'll be bigger. Now you're at a different stratosphere, and then because you're there, the opportunities that'll come on top of that is going to be what's crazy. And then the relationships from the partnerships is going to breed more relationships and even better partnerships." So he said, "There's." Every person that you know that is successful, that is running companies, that started companies, a lot of them, for one, own a very small percent of the company, and they partner with a lot of people. Other people own the rest of the other shares. So you have to understand, it's not always about 100%. I want all my profit, right? Because I rather have 50% of a wall manor than 100% of a grape. So you have to consider partnerships. Now, partnerships are great, but caveat. It has to make sense. Do your values align? Personal values, business values. Are y'all complementing each other in a sense of, because you have weaknesses, can he or she perhaps help you with those weaknesses? Are they stronger in those weaknesses and they're going to have weaknesses? Is that something that you can help fill in? Does the shoe fit properly on both sides? And that would definitely make that's a good recipe right there. But although partnership is great, not all partnerships are great at the same time. So you got to be careful who you partner with for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let's talk about work-life balance and any personal growth that you want to share with us out there.
Oh man, I think it's very easy for hustlers to just keep See, the hustle, depending on the hustle, is its own thing. But, and especially when you're locked in, it's figuring out how to make sure that you're not neglecting other components of life outside of business, because that can definitely, it's easy to neglect those as a hustler. One thing that definitely helps me is I put things on calendar. I put things on calendar. A lot of times people know, my wife knows, if it's not on my calendar, it's likely not going to happen. I put things on calendar, and even someone, I don't know, maybe they'll judge me for this, Andre, I don't know, but even making sure that I'm staying in touch with my family, like my mom. I like to talk to my mom. I want to talk to her. Me and my mom are very close, but sometimes I'll just forget. I realize I didn't went days, a week without even just checking on her.
Oh, that happens with boys.
Man, but she talked to my sisters all the time.
Hey, that's where the wife comes. The wife would say, "Hey, I spoke to your mom, but when was that?"
Exactly. Exactly. And my wife be talking to her more than me. And so I got to call mom. It's on schedule. You know what I'm saying? It's on schedule. Check on this person. Talk to this person. Check on this person. If for me, and some of this is know thyself as well. For me, I done got so used to my calendar. If it's not on there, I'm gonna just forget it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's also important to know thyself, but you have to. And I'm not talking about, see, and that's the thing. I'm not talking about balance in the sense of having a balanced life while you're in growth mode. Because check this out. Here's the truth about it. If you're not where you want to be financially, you have no business having a balanced life. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that. I feel that you need to be putting a lot of your effort into growing your business. You need to be working. You need to be hustling. You need to be getting to where you want to be. I'm talking about keeping a common touch, right? Not losing, not also neglecting the important things, but you should be hustling. I truly feel, because most people feel like having growing what you're trying to grow, but also trying to have a balanced life could be, you can't really have, because they each have to happen at each independent times. It's like seasons. You can't have fall on top of winter and winter on top of fall. Fall happens in this time, and then winter happens on this time. If you're in growth mode, be in growth mode. There'll be time for balance. There'll be time for that later. So stay in growth mode and and focus on your business. There'll be time for balance later.
Okay.
Sure.
So what I hear from TJ is, look, when it's time to plant the seeds, harvest time, harvest, and you'll eat later.
That's
I
facts.
love that. I love that. So what's next for you? What's the future outlook? What can we expect from you coming up on the horizon?
My next summit, which it was supposed to be in September, major issues with the venue. Nonetheless, we passed that. The next Entrepreneur Summit will be June 21st and 22nd, 2024. So that's my next big conference, and that's going to be very special. The lineup is already crazy, but nonetheless. We have that, of course. I mentioned a few other companies that we are working on right now that we're growing, and a few of the deals that we're working on that we're growing. So you're going to be seeing some information about some deals coming up here in a little bit as well. A few cool things happening, and working on the merch line. Getting ready. I'm in the final stages of trademark when it comes to my brand, which is what I'm excited about, and also working on the merch line, the whole merch line. That's a whole separate situation with that as well. We're trying to grow and develop a kind of a business, entrepreneurship lifestyle brand with it, with entrepreneurs. So that's something that's in the works as well. Some other tech stuff that we got going on that I signed NDAs for that I can't speak on too much. And also, but I did recently launch my CRM. My CRM software is called My Rental Ease. It's called Rental Ease. The website is My Rental Ease with a Z. Ease, Rental EAZE. So Ease with a Z, and definitely check that out. It's an amazing platform, amazing software, all in one CRM. Our students love it. Other people love it. If you're looking to own real estate, if you're looking to own real estate, you can get leads from there. You can find private lenders on there. You can find renters on there. You can skip trades directly on there. You can set direct mail directly on there. Email follow campaigns. Email campaigns have rehab estimator directly on there. Amazing features through the software. But that's something that we recently launched as well that I'm excited about.
Okay. How long did it take you to put together a CRM like that?
It depends on what all you have involved with it, how detailed you want it to be. This is particularly something that I started working on. I decided to do this September last year when I was speaking at an event in Jamaica. I got invited by my boy Terry Thayer to go speak at his conference in Jamaica. I spoke there. I spoke with some amazing people. One of the speakers who specializes in helping and creating softwares and CRMs and stuff like that. I tapped in with them and we put the plan in motion as soon as we got back. It's been probably a full work in progress since about January.
Give us some closing inspirational words for the next TJ that's out there who is an engineer, who is a student immigrant, who
Yeah.
wants to get into the space that you're in? Talk
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in business, period, really in real estate. I'll say don't discount the quiet work. What I mean quiet work is that work that you don't realize you're moving the needle, but it doesn't seem like you are. Because trust me, when you're building something, it's hard to work really hard. You've made a lot of calls, you're talking to whatever the case may be, you're working really hard, but you go to bed and you wake up and feel like you're in the same position. And then you got to do it all over again and keep doing it all over again. See, it may seem, man, I'm not getting anywhere, but trust me when I tell you that each no is getting you closer to your next yes. Don't discount the quiet work. That's that quiet work that is working in your favor. You just don't know it. Just stay in the game. If it's something you want to do, stay in the game. I believe with this, my very first wholesale deal, when I first got into real estate, I sent out my first postcard campaign. This is back in 2014. I sent my first postcard campaign. Within my first campaign, I closed my first real estate deal within 2 weeks. And trust me, it was a $7,500 assignment fee. And I thought I was big stuff. You couldn't tell me anything. But ask me how long it took me to close my second deal. Doing the same exact thing, 6 months. I almost gave up on real estate twice during that time. It took me 6 months to close my second deal. So much so, I almost wish it was backwards. Almost wish it took me 6 months to close my first deal. Then I started getting good traction after that. Because I learned a big lesson during that time period. And the lesson is don't discount the quiet work. You have to stay consistent. It works. Does real estate work? Yes, it works. It's not a question if it doesn't work. Do you work? Is the question.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right, TJ, tell the folks exactly where they can find you, your mentorship, all of your socials. We're going to be dropping it below, but I want them to hear it directly from you.
Absolutely. At TJ Tijani. That's at TJTIJANI. Listen, I'm excited for the conference coming up, and you can definitely reach me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Check out the link in my bio, and my team. You can definitely book a call with myself and my team. Shoot me a message, and we'll definitely get in touch with you for sure.
All right. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, brother.
I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, shake it up. She got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up.